Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we have a loaded slate of Commanders news and rumors to talk about today. First up, another Commanders re-signing today on defense. I'll let you guys know who they're re-signing at the top of today's show. Then the number one free agent edge is officially hitting the market. ESPN reveals Washington's top free agency priority in a position they're prepared to spend a lot of money at, apparently. Also, the latest Commanders wide receiver rumors on Brandon Aiyuk and others. And then we'll finish up today's show with some good news for a top draft target in round one for the Washington Commanders. But before we get into the content today, guys, make sure you click that subscribe button and join the Commanders Report family today, because we're just getting started with our offseason coverage. And over these next 2 weeks or so, we're going to have more breaking news on your Washington Commanders than pretty much the entire calendar year. Like, this is really the time of the year where I think Washington Commanders, because of the lack of draft capital, they're going to be making a lot of signings in free agency this year, guys. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button. We're going to get you a video every time the Commanders make a big signing. We'll also be going live next week. It's all 100% free, guys, so join the over 50,000 Commanders fans that have already clicked that subscribe button and join our family today. Now, the Commanders are re-signing defensive lineman Drake Jackson to a one-year deal. They brought in Jackson midway through the season last year, dealt with some injuries, but then he was able to finish the year off by playing the final 3 games of the Washington Commanders schedule as a rotational edge rusher in their 4-3 defensive scheme last year under Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. And Drake is still relatively young, man. He just got drafted in 2022. He's turning 25 in just a couple days, actually. Big guy, 6'4", 273 pounds, athletic at that size, which is one of the reasons why he was taken at the end of round 2 by the 49ers there during the 2022 NFL draft. And, I see a guy with his size profile, 273 pounds. And, I definitely see a competition forming at the 5 technique spot in this 3-4 system that Durante Jones is bringing here to Washington this year. The Commanders are shifting from a base 4 down front to a base 5 down front. And when the Commanders are playing in base and they have those 5 on-ball defenders, you're going to have that 5 technique in there. Obviously, Daron Payne and Javon Kinlaw are expected to be the every down starters, whether it's nickel, whether it's base, whatever, but you need that third guy to come in on early downs in particular when you play your base formations. And Jerzon Newton, I'm sure, is the guy that they would love to assume that role. I think that he certainly had some issues anchoring and defending the run last year, but he did have some flashes as a pass rusher. But then they re-signed Dietrich Wise and Drake Jackson as these 2 guys that, can play that 3-4, defensive end type where you're lining up at the 5 technique spot, where you're a bigger guy, but you're athletic, you have some strength, and you can hold your own at that spot, even though you're not a true edge player, because in this 3-4 defense, outside linebackers are the edge rushers in this particular scheme. Dorrance Armstrong is going to be assuming one of those roles, and then we expect the Commanders to add at least a couple more outside linebackers in free agency and the draft to round out the rest of this defensive line. So coming up here on the Commanders Report, ESPN reveals a top free agency priority for the Washington Commanders. We'll cover that later in today's show. But before we get into the rest of the program here, you guys can check out our website here, chatsports.com/DCGreen, to pick up a Washington Drinking Team t-shirt just in time for St. Patrick's Day. Both of these shirts, we have 2 different colorways. We got St. Patrick's Day green and the alternate black, if you prefer more of a neutral color there. But these are limited edition t-shirts, guys, that are only available up until St. Patrick's Day. They're only $29.99, so this isn't like a $50 t-shirt that you'll see on a lot of these websites or anything like that. I think $30 is a pretty reasonable price tag. And my bosses tell me, guys, that the more of these babies that we sell, the more merch opportunities we are going to get here on the Commanders Report. So if you guys want Scary Terry themed t-shirts, if you want Jaden Daniels themed t-shirts, all those different things, we can make that happen for you guys if we can prove to our bosses here that we can sell these t-shirts. And if you guys want to guarantee shipping of your t-shirt before St. Patrick's Day, at this point you're going to have to do expedited and express shipping. But the good news is we have a special deal going on our website right now where you guys can get $5 off your express shipping when you click the express shipping option on our website. So chatsports.com/DCGreen. Make sure you guys choose the express shipping option to get $5 off your Washington Drinking Team t-shirt today. Again, guys, that's chatsports.com/DCGreen. That link is down there in the comments and description of today's show. And then if you want to pair your Drinking Team t-shirt with a Beers hat, we have those available on our website as well. Go to chatsports.com/beers to get your Beers hat today. Okay, so now let's talk here about this signing decreasing the chances of Ruben Bain being the round 1 pick for the Washington Commanders, because you have all of these guys. You've got Drake Jackson and now Dietrich Wise coming back, and you've got Jerzon Newton all vying for that 5 technique spot. That's kind of where I would envision Bain playing in this defensive scheme, and now it's getting pretty crowded once we get to camp here in terms of the guys competing for that position. And I don't really see Ruben Bain as somebody that's a bigger, kind of stockier type of player playing a true outside linebacker, Andrew Van Ginkel-esque role in this Washington Commanders defense. I would definitely lean more towards Arvell Reese and David Bailey being better fits for what the Commanders are going to be looking for at that other edge rusher spot. So at this point, I would say Ruben Bain probably not as likely to be a Washington Commander. Now we'll shift here to ESPN's John Keim, who covers the Commanders for the House of Mouse, and he says that Washington will pursue a quote-unquote starting caliber cornerback in free agency. Now, there's a number of different corners that are available that the Commanders can look to. Jamel Dean is a pretty good scheme fit as a good man corner. I think that he would fit well in this Durante Jones system, but he is going to be relatively expensive. Jalen Watson's another guy that's played well for Kansas City over the years. Reek Woolen is somebody that I think would be a pretty decent scheme fit here as well. Alontae Taylor can play outside or inside, kind of similar to Mike Samerstill. And then Nashawn Wright, somebody that had a breakout season with Chicago last year. Now, if you want to get more affordable at this position, you could go with Eric Stokes. You could go with Trayvon Diggs. Obviously Diggs has his connection to Dan Quinn, playing for him when Quinn was the DC there in Dallas, and he's expected to be really affordable. James Pierre had a breakout season last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and really nobody knows about it. Like he was the second highest graded corner in football last season for the Steelers, and his market value, according to Spotrac, is just the vet minimum. Then Jonathan Jones is a guy that has been linked to the Commanders as a potential re-sign option, and Jeff Okudah was the third cornerback for Durante Jones's defense last year with Brian Flores in Minnesota. So keep your eye on those 10 names right there. But if Keim is right here and the Commanders are looking for an outside corner in free agency, and apparently they're willing to spend some pretty big bucks to get that other starting corner on the opposite side of Trey Amos, that would certainly point to Mike Samerstill moving back into the slot where they've tried to play him these last 2 years, but he just frankly wasn't very good as a slot in Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr.'s scheme. He was much better playing in that Mike McDonald-esque Jesse Minter defense in Michigan while playing as the nickel star, where he was able to play with more instincts. He didn't have to play as much true man-to-man coverage as he did here in Washington in his early years. So it's possible Samerstill could be better in this new defensive scheme. But personally, I'd like to keep Samerstill on the outside. He's still on his rookie contract. He's played better on the outside than on the inside in his early years of his NFL career. And I think that, when I look at this defense with Durante Jones bringing in lots of off coverage, lots of, man match type of stuff here, I think that he's better fit to play on the outside in this system than from the nickel slot. But some nickel free agent possibilities if they keep Samerstill on the outside is they could bring in Alontae Taylor. Like we mentioned before, he'd be more of an expensive nickel option at nearly $20 million is what his projected market value is, according to The Athletic. But Cordell Flott, we could flip him from a division rival here in the New York Giants. That would be a possibility. But also a big nickel option, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, played really well for the Chicago Bears. I wanted the Commanders to bring him in last year, and C.J. showed the world why I thought that last year playing the way he did for the Bears. I'd love to bring him in for just the $2.5 million price tag. Are you kidding me? I would absolutely love that for the Commanders, but also Mike Hilton and Arthur Maulet, two guys with a lot of experience in this league as a starting slot corner. But then, some nickel draft prospects that they could look at. Caleb Downs, I think, could be that Derwin James-esque type of player that, was a safety, but he can play in the nickel as well. You could certainly look at him, but, there's a lot of other players in the draft that you can look at from the nickel spot. You could even put Sonny Styles in as a big nickel. That would be very, very interesting. We've talked about that on our show before. Avian Terrell can play in the slot. Same thing goes with D'Angelo Pons and Keith Abney and Keontae Scott. Kyle Lewis is another linebacker that could maybe make a transition to big nickel, but, I would say these are probably the top 10 nickel defenders in the NFL draft this year. So if the Commanders want to go that route, they could certainly do that as well. But what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Should Mike Sainristil play inside or outside corner this upcoming season? Type O for outside or S for slot. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Now, Trey Hendrickson is officially leaving the Cincinnati Bengals this offseason here, guys, as he's officially said his goodbyes to the city of Cincinnati and the Bengals fan base. And now he's going to be a very rich man here in a couple of days when NFL free agency begins. I think he will probably get at least over $30 million per season. And that's exactly what The Athletic is projecting right now. They're projecting a 3-year, $99 million contract for him, and I think that is more than worth it for a guy like Hendrickson if he's the right fit for your defense. Like as a 4-3 defensive end, Hendrickson is the best that you can get in the National Football League right now, maybe outside of a couple of guys, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, but Hendrickson's in that conversation where, he's always putting up high-end production, and I know he's 31 years old and he's getting up there, but listen, man, he is still a really, really good producer at the position. Just last year, obviously, he dealt with some injuries, but he was still, I think he graded over a 90 PFF grade last year when he was on the field. Of course, the 2 previous seasons, he collected 17.5 sacks, led the NFL in sacks for a season. He forces fumbles, gets TFLs. Like, this is somebody that definitely makes a big impact on the game. But the question is, should the Commanders be willing to pay that $33 million per year price tag, or even more than that, to bring him in as a star edge rusher? And personally, even though they were interested in Hendrickson last year when they were still running the Joe Witt Jr., Dan Quinn 4-3 under style defense, I don't think he's a fit any longer for what this Commanders are going to be doing moving forward, which is a 3-4 system where the edge rushers are 3-4 outside linebackers that are sometimes asked to go out into coverage. And I just don't see Hendrickson at 265 pounds as somebody that's going to be able to play that kind of role for the Washington Commanders. I think what's more likely for Washington is that they will splurge at the edge rusher position, maybe a little bit, but I'd say keep your eye on these guys, Boye Mafe, Adafe Owe, and Arnold Ebiketie. These guys are all 27 years old, around the right age that they're looking for. But then also I expect the draft to be, especially early, to be a big sticking point here for Dan Quinn and Adam Peters as they look to find their next star edge rusher. And, it's going to be, like I said earlier in the show, closer to the vein of an undersized, outside linebacker type like a David Bailey or an Arvell Reese or an R. Mason Thomas or something like that. Obviously, they won't take Thomas at number 7. They would maybe trade down. But, you guys get the point. Like, if they're going to bring in somebody that's an edge rusher, it's going to be somebody that it can play that Andrew Van Ginkel-esque role as almost more of a undersized outside linebacker edge than somebody like Hendrickson, who's a 265-pound, like, true edge rusher that's more suited for a 4-man front. So let's shift our focus here to the wide receiver position here today, guys, where Brandon Aiyuk, the guy that I've been saying for months at this point, is likely going to be the choice for the Washington Commanders at the wide receiver 2 spot this offseason, something I really expect to come together very quickly once the start of free agency starts. NFL insider Lake Lewis Jr. Said on a podcast this week that Brandon Aiyuk is 100% healthy and is ready to go for the start of the 2026 offseason program for whatever team he goes to. He said Brandon Aiyuk would be the perfect complement to Terry McLaurin right now, and from what I was told, that knee is good. He's healthy. He's good. He's fine. He just did not want to be in San Francisco. I've heard a lot of guys don't want to be in San Fran. I'll just leave it at that. So I mean, there's a lot of people, that are concerned about the knee injury, and for good reason. Like, that knee injury was nasty for Brandon Aiyuk, but apparently, like, he was healthy during the season this year, once especially you got to the later portion of it, and he could have played if he wanted to, but it just got to a point where his relationship with the 49ers got so bad that he didn't want to play for that team anymore. And if it's true that he is back to fully healthy, a fully healthy Brandon Aiyuk that behaves himself in the locker room is a dangerous man, especially at the price point that he's expected to be at. We'll talk about that here in a second. But you guys can just take a look at his exploits here over the last 4 seasons he's played in the National Football League. Obviously, he didn't take a snap last season, but 2023, he was a second-team All-Pro with 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns, helped lead the 49ers to the Super Bowl that year. The year before that, had 8 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards. And he was having a pretty decent season. He was warming up to that 2024 campaign before he completely shredded his knee against the Kansas City Chiefs. Right now, Spotrac currently projects Brandon Aiyuk's contract to just a 1-year, $12.3 million deal. And, for somebody that has the kind of upside that Aiyuk brings to the table, especially when your starting quarterback is Jaden Daniels, who has not only been his teammate before at Arizona State, but they work out together in the offseason. They're best friends, all that different stuff. For that price tag, man, I am 100% in on Brandon Aiyuk. Now, if he's asking to get over $20 million a year and he's looking to get multiple years on his contract and have guaranteed money into the second and third years of his contract, like, I'm out. Like, I just am. Like, I'm okay with the 1-year prove-it kind of deal just because I'm so intrigued to see what this offense could look like with Terry McLaurin and Brandon Aiyuk as this wide receiver duo. But at that price point, 1 year, $12.3 million over that one season is 100% worth the risk if I'm the Washington Commanders. Now let's talk about some other options here where the New England Patriots let go of Stephon Diggs yesterday. And Diggs is coming fresh off an appearance in the Super Bowl. Obviously, he was the number 1 receiver on a team that went to the Super Bowl, had over 1,000 yards receiving. And pretty much when Stephon Diggs is healthy, he gets 1,000 yards, at least. Like, he has been somebody that has been one of the better receivers in the league for a long time, proved last year that he is still a really good receiver. And you pair him up with Terry McLaurin here in Washington, I mean, you want to talk about really good wide receiver duos, Stephon Diggs would certainly provide that for the Commanders. But number one, I think that, the legal trouble that he's in right now is concerning, okay? Like, the allegations are pretty damn serious, and it doesn't seem like they're going away anytime soon. Not to mention, he's getting older and all these different things. So I think that Stephon is probably going to wait until these issues and these legal issues kind of clear up so that he can try and make more money because he is still a very good football player. But if these legal issues, continue to, go on, I wouldn't be surprised if Diggs signs with somebody for a really low number. But if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I don't know if I want to touch Stephon Diggs while these legal proceedings are going on at any price point if I'm the Washington Commanders. But now Washington was listed among 5 teams to keep an eye on for when it comes to Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans, who is slated to become a free agent this offseason. The other teams that he was listed and was linked to Mike Evans include the Buffalo Bills, who just traded for DJ Moore today, by the way, so maybe those guys aren't quite in contention anymore. Los Angeles, and honestly, I think they like their young receiver core with Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and Trey Harris there in L.A. San Francisco, obviously they're losing Brandon Aiyuk this offseason. Maybe they would be interested, but then the New York Giants as well. Pairing Mike Evans up with Malik Neighbors would be a pretty decent pairing there in New York, in my opinion. But his projected contract, 2 years, $25.5 million per season is what he's expected to sign for. And listen, man, Mike Evans is an awesome X-receiver. He makes tough catches. He's an awesome red zone threat. In his heyday, he was a legit number 1 receiver, okay? But, he's getting up there in age now, and I'd rather not give another big contract to a receiver that's 33 years old now and, has a limited skill set. And we already have, Terry McLaurin, a 30-year-old receiver under a large contract. I would rather go the cheaper options. Like, if I'm going to go veteran options, I want to go cheaper, like Brandon Aiyuk, for example. And then, maybe you look to the draft to try and bring in some young talent in this wide receiver room. that it desperately needs. And then Matthew Berry from NBC Sports, we did a whole piece on him this week, by the way, guys, if you want to check that out. But he says Washington is looking to add speed at the wide receiver position this year. Didn't have enough of it last year, and the guys that were fast, like Jalen Lane, couldn't catch the football. So it's certainly possible that we see a true vertical deep threat and a speedster added to this Washington Commanders offense this year. Rashid Shaheed and Darnell Mooney are two names that have been confirmed to be heading to the market here over the last 24 hours. Shaheed is obviously somebody that is a awesome deep threat, fantastic game-wrecking speed, awesome as a special teams return man as well, so maybe they really like him. But right now, I think The Athletic projects him at like $13 million per season over 3 years. I don't know if the Commanders would be super interested in that, but then Darnell Mooney is a very interesting one to me. He's a little bit older. He's dealt with some injuries, but when he's healthy and on the field, man, like he can separate to all three levels of the field. He's a vertical separator with some really good speed. I could certainly see him potentially being a possibility as a wide receiver 3 here in the Commanders offense. But who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comments section. Which veteran wide receiver would you should Washington sign in free agency this year? Do you think that the risk for Brandon Aiyuk is worth it for the Commanders? Do you think they should go out and get maybe a Jawan Jennings instead? Do you think they should bring in a speedster like Rashid Shaheed or Darnell Mooney? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Then we'll finish up today's show here with Caleb Downs, who we talked about earlier this week, where there was a report that apparently he got flagged for his knee with some degenerative ACL stuff and then a partially torn meniscus. Well, Ryan Clark from ESPN revealed this week that he talked with multiple NFL doctors, or at least a source of his talked with multiple NFL doctors that confirmed to him that Caleb Downs' knee is absolutely fine and it's not going to affect his draft positioning in the draft this year. This was the tweet from Clark. He says, from a source close to Caleb Downs, quote, multiple team doctors confirmed that they had no concern over his medical eval and his draft grade will not be affected at all with them. So, who knows what's real, what's not. I will say Clark's got some connections in the league, obviously, as a former player, so I would probably lean more towards his report than the other one that came out. But listen, man, if I'm Adam Peters and I'm head coach Dan Quinn, I'm referring to my doctors. Like, if they tell me that this guy's got an issue and it's going to be a risk, I'm probably not taking him at number 7. But if I get the thumbs up and, they think that he can, reliably stay healthy in the National Football League, then I'm perfectly cool rolling with a guy like Caleb Downs at number 7. He's a game-changing type of safety prospect that can play nickel, that can play safety, that's instinctual and super intelligent. He's got great leadership ability. Like, if the Commanders can get this guy in their defense, that's the type of move that can, transform the way that this defense, the attitude of it on day one. So I love Caleb Downs as a prospect. You guys know that. But what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Are you comfortable drafting Caleb Downs at number 7 overall this year? A safety in the top 10. Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for today's edition of Commanders News and Rumors. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. We're going to continue to get you guys coverage of all the latest news and rumors this weekend when I'm going to be on my off days here at home. But man, free agency is coming up really, really quickly here. So we're going to get you guys all the breaking news coverage we can here on the Commanders Report in preparation for that.